It's been a crazy couple of weeks for the UFO community and people who are trying to push some form of transparency. Now, you're probably very well aware already that we've got this interstellar object allegedly heading towards Earth, and that has dominated a hell of a lot of the headlines. But is that the be-all and end-all of it all? Well, no. And we've got like a mega compilation video kind of thing of everything that we've covered so far over the past few weeks, kind of getting you up to speed with everything. And we're going to start off with the alien threat that is allegedly hurling its way down towards Earth, because Avi Loeb, a scientist and someone who is an advocate for UAPs, has also chimed in on this situation. This interstellar object that is slowly progressing its way towards Earth is starting to gain a lot of traction, not just because it's heading towards Earth, but more mainstream media outlets are starting to cover this more and more frequently. And it's starting to get very sensationalized, let's say. So a post from the New York Post, an article made by them, has stated that a possibly hostile alien threat detected unknown interstellar object, a shocking new study claims. Now, to give you a little bit of context, there is an object that is being dubbed 3I, I believe it is, that is approaching its way towards Earth. Now, NASA has confirmed that this is absolutely the case, but media outlets are starting to kind of talk about it. This was one of the earlier claims that were made by, or stories that was made by it, and you'll see how sensationalized this whole situation has truly become.
The most shocking news you'll hear today. U.S. astronomers have just confirmed that an interstellar object named 3I, Atlas, is hurtling toward Earth at high speed. It's not an asteroid, it's not a comet, it's an unknown object from outside our solar system. Its trajectory, it means, is not bound by the sun's gravity. It's traveling through interstellar space in an almost unpredictable direction. You may remember Ostrich from 2017, the first interstellar visitor. Now, it's the third, but the difference is this time, it's heading straight for us. Scientists say its speed, structure, and energy is being released in a way never seen before. It doesn't seem like any other natural object, and there's even an unnatural symmetry to its shape. Some experts are saying it's probably not a product of nature. You can read this as, it's the universe throwing an unexplained piece of the puzzle at us. NASA and the SETI program have launched a joint observation program.
Now, that's kind of one of the first and earlier talks and news articles about it. That came out on the 8th of July. Now, 2 days ago, like I say, the New York Post gets a hold of this, and now they're claiming that it's possibly hostile. I mean, that's obviously quite a big jump. Now, the reason for this is obviously a mysterious intergalactic object could potentially be hostile alien spacecraft, as it's slated to attack our planet in November, according to a controversial new study by smaller groups of scientists. The consequences should the hypothesis turn out to be correct, could potentially be dire for humanity, the researchers wrote in an inflammatory paper, which was published on July 16th to the preprint server Arziv. Southwest News Service reported. Dubbed 3I Atlas, the interstellar entity was discovered on July 1st, rocketing towards the sun at more than 130,000 miles per hour. Less than 24 hours later, it was confirmed to be an interstellar object, with initial observations suggesting that it could be a comet that measures up to 15 miles in diameter, larger than Manhattan. However, in the new paper, the trio of researchers suggested that it might a piece of extraterrestrial spy technology in disguise. One of the researchers, Avi Loeb, we'll get to him in just a moment, a prominent Harvard astrophysicist known for linking extraterrestrial objects to alien life, previously made waves after floating about the theory that in 2017, interstellar object Oumuamua, I've butchered that, I'm sorry, could be an artificial recon probe sent by an alien civilization based on its odd shape and acceleration. But in this study, which he collaborated with with Adam Hibbard and Adam Crowell of the Initiative for Interstellar Studies in London, Loeb postulated that 3I Atlas trajectory suggests it's a similarly alien origin. Now, they're dubbing this to be potentially like a potential attack on Earth, right? And this is more comments from RV Loeb. So this is coming from someone who has spoken to RV Loeb and is relaying the messages that they have put out.
Wow, this is massive news. Just spoken with Harvard professor RV Loeb about this interstellar object, 3I Atlas. And he's done a research paper and with a couple of colleagues, and they are saying basically the trajectory of it is such that it could be planning an attack on Earth around November, December. This is massive. The science, the data is there. It's got a very low trajectory, which makes it easy to sort of basically launch attacks. And that's where, as far as we're aware, the only inhabited planet in this solar system. He suggests that they could be planning some sort of mission, and we need to be ready for it. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to be setting up a full interview with him next week. We'll do it live.
I'll be intrigued to see what comes of this, of course. Now, it's quite bold claims, to say the very least. But, you know, people are talking about this all over TikTok.
Spacecraft approaching Earth. Could it arrive in November? Yes, folks, it appears a spacecraft is approaching Earth, and this could be a mothership, according to Harvard astrophysicists. According to these astrophysicists, this possible mothership measures more than 15 miles in diameter. It's larger than Manhattan. This object, nicknamed 3E Atlas, could approach Earth in November. Who says this? A Harvard researcher named Avi Loeb. And according to this possible enormous mothership could be hostile. Other scientists say this theory from these Harvard scientists is a hoax, and that this isn't true, that it could only be a comet. Some mention that what Harvard said is because Trump said a Harvard president is on Epstein's list, and this would be a distraction. And speaking of aliens in California, in Compton, the security cameras in a house recorded one. According to this, at 1 a.m., this woman named Jessica Ortiz lives here. She was the one who mentioned that this happened at her house. But anyway, what do you think? Are the aliens already preparing for an invasion?
Now, speaking of aliens, I watched this entire interview a few times now, or this video a few times. This woman never blinks. Literally never blinks. I hope that she's artificial intelligence, because if she's real, my lord, those eyes are working overtime, and she must be an alien because of that. Anyway, caveat over. Obviously, this is now gaining significant attention. Headlines are hostile takeover of the world, devastating crash into Earth that's going to end humanity. Everything's going to end humanity. We're all going to die in November and December. Thanks news. I'm glad that we could make it. I'm glad I got married prior to us all dying. But at least if we die, I guess, you know, I can write off the debt of the wedding. So that's always a little win. But yeah, it's so sensationalized. You know, obviously we need to just kind of keep our eyes on this. There is something coming towards Earth, we know that. But do I think right now that it is an alien mothership that is preparing a hostile attack on Earth like War of the Worlds? No, not at this current moment in time. Maybe I'm ignorant to think so, but that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. While you're down there, jump scare the hell out of that like button and subscribe, because I'll be keeping you up to date as best I can. When RV Loeb delivers more intelligence and more information, I'll be sure to deliver that as well. But yeah, just keep a cautious mind open when you see these kinds of things, because, well, you're not stupid. We've also got a strange UFO or alien sighting coming out of Compton, of all places, that has not just grabbed like social media attention, but also mainstream media attention. An alleged brand new UFO whistleblower from the Pentagon has come forward to speak out and to provide quote-unquote evidence to back up claims that they are making. So within the claims, right, this anonymous whistleblower, who we don't really know the name of, states that, quote, some form of contact with sentient has been made with estimated approach date, which is the 29th of October. Quote, obviously I will lose my job when this gets out. I have worked for the Pentagon for the past 7 years. Now, this alleged US whistleblower has gone into hiding after claiming that official UF Gov documents show that they are prepared for contact with aliens this fall. Now, a lot of people are saying that this is to do with the 3i Atlas asteroid that is, allegedly hurling towards Earth, and a lot of people have claimed that it's something alien technology related, and it's been backed by, scientists and stuff like this. And I'm not necessarily buying that. The probability of it hitting Earth has dropped to below 1%. In fact, I think it's actually closer to 0%, like just completely not going to happen at all. But it's still being fearmongered that the idea is that it will, hit Earth at some point. Now, I don't know. Obviously, we're going to have to wait until September for that. But obviously, this whistleblower is the kind of talking point at the moment. So let's listen to what he's got to say. And then after watching this, I've already kind of found some discrepancies within the alleged, documentation.
Let me back up. I have worked at the Pentagon for the last 7 years in data analysis. And last Friday, as I was leaving work like I normally do, I got an email that I wasn't supposed to get. There is another senior officer here at the Pentagon with the same first and last name, but with a different middle initial. And it got sent to the DOD email to me instead of him. And according to policy, I wasn't even supposed to open it, but I did. And I have to share this information with everybody before it's too late. I'll just put on the screen. All right, so I will leave it up on the screen for a few moments so you guys can read it. Obviously, the part that stands out is indicating that some form of contact with sentience has been made, and that the estimated current approach date of 29 October. Obviously, I will lose my job once this gets out. Honestly, I will remain in hiding for as long as possible just for my own safety. But I didn't feel right knowing this information and knowing the implications for all of us and not sharing this with everyone. So do with it what you will, and Godspeed.
Now, looking at the documentation, just kind of straight off the bat, there are a few kind of glaring mistakes and issues. Let's read the document that was provided. So it states, U.S. Department of Defense Top Secret SIG No Fawn. Interstellar Object High Interest Assessment Comet C/2025 N1 Atlas. So this is kind of in reference to the 3i Atlas, I believe, the one that is heading towards, allegedly, towards Earth. And it says top secrets, obviously, restricted to ODNI, USSF, NASA, and OPCEN. Harvard astrophysicist R.V. Loeb, and then a redacted statement here. Now, Galileo Project Analysis. Now, R.V. Loeb is obviously the person that has been touting the idea that this could potentially be this interstellar object is more than a comet, because apparently it didn't have a tail. I believe they have found a tail of the comet now, which people now believe it is. But some, R.V. Loeb was touting the idea that this may be alien tech. It says, AT-1 displays an unusually high hyperbolic excess velocity around 5 kilometers per second. Retrograde orbit with 5 inches of the eclipse. Trajectory passes Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Estimated arrival at Perignon, 29th of October. We'll get into that in a minute. 2025. Approximately 1.35 AU from Sun. Strategic trajectory may facilitate surveillance probes, fueling close planetary flybys. Contact established with sentient beings aboard the craft. Obviously, that's quite a huge deal. And then, Sensationalism note, we'll get into that in just a moment as well. An observational blind spot during perihelion approach on 29th of October 2025 could enable concealment maneuvers to evade detection. Now, obviously, there are some glaring mistakes in this government's Department of Defense official document. Bear in mind, this is supposed to be an official document, but just straight off the bat, if you take a little look at the header, right, this should be Like, even if, right, this is written quickly, you could probably, arguably say, yeah, there's been some typos. But this should be a constant. Disagreement of defes, right? So we've got a D, an R, a B, an R, ST meant. So this is supposed to be department. That doesn't say department. Of, this is supposed to be defense, but it's a derese, all right? And then this is supposed to be United States of America. It's absolutely not the United States of America, okay? And then obviously scrolling down through the document, you can see here we've got October, right? Not October. We've got, this is supposed to be a sensitivity note. This is not sensitivity at all. And there is also supposed to be concealment. This is not concealment whatsoever. So my theory on this, and a lot of people's theories kind of looking through the thread, is that this is just mocked up through AI. Because if you created, ask AI to create a document like this, it will create a document as close to it as possible, but there are these glaring mistakes. Like this, for example, Department of Defense just completely getting that absolutely wrong. Getting these spelling mistakes wrong. It will type this out as well as it possibly can, but there will be these glaring mistakes because although AI is freakishly accurate now, it's not that accurate. There has also been a community note that has been left on this thread from the page Concerned Citizen, who isn't the whistleblower, by the way. They've just kind of shared this. And it says, classified documents have standard formats and headers as well as standardized cover pages. This document does not follow those standards, most likely fake, as originator has never seen a classified document before. And then if you tap on the link here, it basically is a training course for showing you how a structured secret document should be structured, essentially, which is very interesting. But so yeah, obviously this is a blow up of that header, which is supposed to be the Department of Defense. But someone has also key highlighted all of the glaring mistakes. So Galileo spelt wrong, October spelt wrong, facilitate spelt wrong. I'm not sure what that's even supposed to say. Flybys incorrectly spelt. Sensitivity wrong. Concealment wrong. You can see that this is, not the case whatsoever. And then just to put the final nail in the coffin, someone asked Grok, which is of course is Twitter's or X's AI program, who will, if you ask it a question, if you tag it in and ask it a question about the specific thing, it will give you a rundown. And someone said, Grok, does this individual work at the Pentagon? Grok stated, no verifiable evidence confirms this anonymous individual's employment at the Pentagon. The Comet C-25N1 Atlas is real, but alien contact claims lack credible sources and official acknowledgement. Likely a hoax. And that's where I also stand with this. I believe this is a hoax, but I have seen this all over my Twitter page, to be perfectly honest. I've seen this going quite viral. And the fact that some people are actually buying into this is somewhat concerning because they are just seeing this and being like, wow, this confirms what Harvey Loeb's saying, this confirms my theories on this. Just take a moment to kind of look at it in a bit closer detail, because the issues, without even like properly looking into it, were glaring. And interestingly, to do with all of this Atlas 3I meteor thing that's heading towards Earth, obviously many people have stated that it's something alien related. Well, Jeremy Corbell, a UFO journalist, actually stated about 6 months ago that there was going to be a great lie coming. Could this have potentially been that great lie? We've heard a lot of things coming straight out of Compton, but now we've got a potential alien that has been sighted on a Ring doorbell that has come straight out of Compton. Now, it's worth noting that Jessica Ortiz, the woman that caught this and submitted it and uploaded it and everything, has done an interview that we will be talking about in just a moment as well. But in case you've missed it somehow, I don't know how you possibly could have, because it is going mega viral at the moment. This footage was captured on a Ring doorbell, and it looks like something otherworldly has been captured.
when I opened it, I was already in my room and I was like, I'm going crazy. I'm literally going crazy. Like, I'm losing my mind.
This is Jessica Ortiz, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the woman who submitted the footage.
And I took the phone to my son, so I was like, can you check this for me? I was like, am I seeing things, or is this... And he's like, Mom, it's an alien. Call the police. And I was like, I'm not calling the police on an alien, Kevin. I'm not. You know, I'm going to sound crazy. What am I going to sound like?
So, that's the footage. If you've missed it, I don't know how you've missed it. You've done a great job of missing it. But, like I said, Jessica Ortiz has done a few interviews, not just with, with the news outlets, but also with other YouTubers, like Quirk Zone, for example, who has uploaded interview with Compton alien witness Jessica Ortiz. So, Compton, California resident Jessica Ortiz joined the podcast Friday to discuss her recent brush with an apparent non-human intelligent being. Just after 1 a.m. on June 5th of 2025, Ortiz and her teenage son heard noises from their home. Ortiz then received an alert that one of her three ring had captured movement next to her side porch. Examination of the footage revealed a 3-foot-tall being walking next to her house. And within said interview, it was quite insightful, to say the very least. So there was an incident overview, for example. So on June 6th around 1 a.m, obviously, like we've stated, the ring captured a what looked to be a little 3 to 4 foot alien moving across the property. Now, the creature was only recorded by the middle camera and not the back or front cameras, which adds to the mystery for sure. Now, in the initial discovery, Jessica was not typically attentive to her ring camera notifications, but happened to open her phone and see this video shortly after it was recorded, around 4 minutes later. And she was shocked and initially thought that she was quote-unquote going crazy, showing the footage to her son, who also reviewed it multiple times, confirming the unusual sighting. Now, for context and in terms of multiple other things, approximately 20 to 25 minutes before the creature was recorded, Jessica's aunt, who lives about 20 feet away, heard 2 loud bangs and scratching noises on her roof around 12:45 a.m, and she too was too scared to investigate and began praying. Now, the aunt's experience and fear seemed connected to the later sighting, as both households felt an unusual sense of fear, which was not typical for their safe neighborhood. Now, the Ortiz household has had ring cameras for around 5 to 6 years with no prior incidents like this whatsoever. The front and back cameras did not detect the motion at all, suggesting that the creature appeared suddenly or in the middle of the property, possibly from the roof. And the gate opening and closing sound was recorded, but no other cameras captured the entity's approach or departure. Dogs in the house typically reactive to noises were unusually silent and asleep during the incident, which Jessica noted as abnormal behaviour. And Jessica checked with the neighbours, including those in the back house and the aunt's neighbour, but no other cameras captured anything unusual at the time. A 16-year-old neighbour mentioned his sister had claimed to see quote-unquote aliens in the backyard years ago, hinting to a possible prior activity in the area, and neighbours, particularly elderly ones, were shocked, with one humorously refusing to go outside at night after seeing the video. In terms of the video's authenticity, the video was verified by Scott Rower, a crime scene reconstruction expert, who confirmed it was not manipulated or CGI, supported by metadata and the raw video file. Jessica posted the unedited video on Instagram shortly after the incident, avoiding any modifications to maintain authenticity, and attempts to upload the video to the Ring Neighbours app were completely unsuccessful. Now, Jessica has had no prior interest in UFOs or extraterrestrials, but now views the possibility of non-human entities differently. She reported previous unexplained events in her home, such as the canvas flying off the wall a year prior, witnessed by her son, suggesting a possible connection to the recent incident, and she does not feel threatened by the creature or these events, interpreting them as attempts to get attention rather than to cause harm. Now, of course, there has been a lot of speculation to this video, with a lot of people jumping in with a lot of different theories. The creature's appearance with the unusual head and neck shape does not align with the human in a costume theory, and it's also too small and adds to the anomaly. Theories include the creature possibly jumping from the aunt's roof to the Ortiz's driveway, or being related to a craft landing, which is speculated due to the roof noises and not confirmed. And the video blurs when the creature passes, a phenomenon noted in other alleged extraterrestrial sightings, suggesting possible manipulation of visibility. So that's kind of the details and the key details that happened from the interview with Jessica Ortiz, which, of course, you know, it's worth getting the information from the person who actually caught this alleged sighting. Now, other people as well have kind of chimed in on it, trying to kind of make head or tail of what's going on across TikTok as well.
I want to talk about this ring cam footage coming out of Compton, showing what many people believe to be an alien. Let's take a look right here. Let's watch it again. Now, this footage comes from a ring cam at the home of Jessica Ortiz from around 1 o'clock in the morning, and she claims it was entirely unexpected. No one was outside at the time. She has no idea who it could have been if it were a person. And there's some things that I find to be really interesting about this video. Number one is the size. It's not much taller than the tire on the vehicle we see in the background. And also the shape. This is not the shape of any animal, and given the size and the shape, I think it's something that would be very hard to reproduce with a costume. We also hear some noises at the end of the video, like this thing is rummaging around, which Jessica claims her aunt that lives next door heard around the same time. They also claim to have heard what sounded like some kind of scratching on their roof. And if you listen, you can hear the footsteps of this thing in the video, which means to me, if this was digitally enhanced, if this was some kind of addition or edited video or even AI, it was done incredibly well. Take a listen. Now, I don't know if that video was real or not. It was pretty convincing even to skeptical me. I don't know what was in that footage, but what I will say is that it's particularly terrifying to me, because of how much it reminds me of another cryptid, which I also find to be terrifying, the Dover Demon. The resemblance in shape and size is uncanny. And if I saw something like that on the ring cam at my house, there'd be a U-Haul in the driveway the very next day. Sleep well, friends.
So, the jury's out. What do you guys think of this? Obviously, it's going mega viral at the moment. Everyone's talking about it, and it's, you know, it's one of those ones where it could potentially just be a sensationalized story for the sake of news on a slow news day, or there could actually be something to this. But it doesn't stop there, as Avi Loeb had even more to say on the interstellar object and how we should try and analyze said information. The comet that is making its way towards Earth, otherwise known as 3I Atlas, has kind of taken the news and social media by storm. And it started out as an interstellar object that could potentially make its way towards Earth, potentially hit Earth, around 7 miles long, which is absolutely huge considering that it was a 6-mile long comet, believed at least, that took out the dinosaurs. It's a 7-mile wide comet that is heading straight towards Earth and has a 4% chance of actually hitting Earth. Now, obviously, those chances are very slim, but it's not zero. So there is still an ever so slight chance. But what's been really weird to watch is how this story has evolved over time. It started out as just an interstellar object, then it became an interstellar object that is going to hit Earth, then it became an interstellar object that could possibly hit Earth, and then it became an interstellar object that is now potentially alien tech, which has moved into an attack position. So it's kind of weird to watch the sensationalism of this story really develop. And someone who's helping, I guess, the sensationalism of this story is Avi Loeb. Now, Avi Loeb, of course, is a Harvard professor, and scientist who believes he's seen proof of alien life before and suspects that this object instead may have alien origins. He has been all over the news, including News Nation, of course, who absolutely love to spearhead some of the biggest alien stories, where he spoke about how this comet isn't just a comet, but it could potentially be alien tech, and it should be investigated. Very interesting stuff. So let's have a little listen to what he's got to say over on this latest News Nation interview.
because it has anomalies. It moves on a trajectory that is very unusual. It is aligned with the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, and it will get extremely close to the inner planets, like, for example, Jupiter, Mars, or Venus. It will arrive closest to the Sun when the Earth is on the opposite side, so we won't be able to look at it. And that's the point where a spacecraft could make a maneuver to slow down. It's coming from the direction of the Milky Way galaxy, the center of the Milky Way galaxy, where the sky is very crowded with stars. So that's why it took a while to notice it. And altogether, the chance of this trajectory is less than 0.2% to be aligned with the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, less than 1 part in 20,000 to arrive so close to the other planets. And one wonders, could it be a design trajectory? And I'm not saying that we know, but I'm saying that we need to collect more data to figure out the nature of this object. And if it turns out to be a comet, if it's surrounded by a beautiful cometary tail that is glowing in the sunlight as it gets closer to the sun, so be it. But from now on, the Rubin Observatory in Chile will discover a new interstellar object every few months. And my point is, we should check whether any of these objects might be technological in origin, because it's a security risk to Earth.
Right. How do you check that? So it's interesting you mentioned about the trail that might indicate it's a comet. What would be the signs that it's not a comet?
Good question.
Well, so I suggest first establishing a scale of risk from interstellar objects, similar to the Richter scale for the risk from earthquakes. A 0 would mean that we identify a beautiful tail and it looks just like a regular comet. We can infer the composition of the tail. It's similar to comets. A 10 would mean that the object maneuvers in ways that cannot be explained by the force of gravity, that there must be an engine in it, or it has an unusual shape, or it has artificial lights. And there should be an organization that decides whether an incoming object could be a risk, because we talk a lot about existential risks from artificial intelligence, from climate change, from an asteroid that may impact the Earth, but we don't talk at all about the possibility of alien tech. And I think we should take it into consideration, because we sent out spacecraft that would leave the solar system.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So it is estimated to be about 12 miles long, okay? And correct me if I'm wrong, you want to use NASA's Juno spacecraft to intercept the path of that. It has instruments that could study it. It could change the trajectory of the orbit. Can you explain a little bit more how this would work?
Yeah, so we should take advantage of the fact that it comes so close to Jupiter. It's quite amazing. If you look at Jupiter's orbit, it just gets to the point where 3I Atlas will be on the 16th of March, 2026. And I calculated that if we give a small kick to Juno of 2.6 kilometers per second, just around the time when NASA was thinking of just sinking it into Jupiter, because it's the end of the mission. And I'm saying, instead of letting it dive into Jupiter, just kick it out, away from Jupiter, then with the right orientation, it will actually intercept the path of 3I Atlas. And it's an amazing opportunity for us to learn much more about this object. Because we can't launch any rocket from Earth that would intercept this object. It's moving too fast relative to Earth, in the opposite direction of the motion of Earth around the Sun.
You wrote that if this 3I Atlas is a technological artifact, it could be evidence of the dark forest hypothesis. What is that?
That's one of the solutions to Fermi's paradox, which is the question, where is everybody? And of course, it's possible that aliens are out there, but they are worried about predators, and therefore they are silent, as if they are in a dark forest. And if they see a civilization like ours, a young technological civilization that gets more powerful over time, and they are listening to us, they might send a probe or a spacecraft on a reconnaissance mission, or with some other goals. And we should be ready for that. We should monitor the sky and be aware of that potential possibility, and just ignoring it is not intelligent on our behalf.
Thank you for...
So, I find it interesting because, like, Harvey Loeb, when I made a video about this recently, people were like, it's Harvey Loeb, don't listen, instantly discredited. Obviously, you know, his hypotheses when it comes to aliens are a little bit out there, let's say. But, you know, I don't know. I wanted to kind of put this together, see what you guys make of it. I find it an interesting take on the situation. Obviously, you know, I would like to understand more about the three-eye atlas, but at the same time, you know, people are hypothesizing that there's no tail like you would see with a comet, like a comet tail, which makes people believe that it's something alien related. I don't know. Who am I to say? I'm not a scientist, and I'm not smart enough to even think that I could possibly challenge the brilliant minds of Harvard and NASA. But what do you guys make of this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Do you think that this is just a genuine alien... just a genuine comet, or do you think that this is some kind of alien tech? But it gets even crazier, as Ross Coulthart, of all people, the UFO researcher and investigative journalist, had a UFO researcher on his platform on the Reality Check podcast, where they spoke about other insane things to do with data and statistics that could point again towards UAP takeover. This interstellar object that is hurling towards or just hurled into our solar system towards Earth is absolutely captivating headlines right now. But were we warned of a great lie that was supposed to be coming later this year by UFO investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell earlier this year to try and distract from something more significant? Now, this is really interesting, and I completely forgot all about this whole interview. I actually made a video on this Jeremy Corbell interview about 6 months ago when it first came out. But obviously, there is this interstellar object that is hurling towards Earth. I believe it's called MI6 or something. I can't remember what it's called. But I apologise for the room, by the way. I'm not in the normal setup. I'm in Greece on my honeymoon, so, you know. But the news doesn't stop, so I don't stop. But... obviously, this is really captivated. So, and even scientists and UFO researchers and people like that, like Harvey Loeb, for example, are also chiming in on the situation. But here's a little bit about the interstellar object before we kind of get into the bigger news.
And bigger than we thought. Provide a chilling update on a mysterious interstellar object that's racing through our solar system using data from the Vera C. Rubin Observatory. Experts have revealed just how big the object dubbed 31 Atlas really is. According to their analysis, the object measures roughly 7 miles in diameter. Holy fuck. How big is New York City? Bigger than Mount Everest, making it the largest interstellar object ever spotted. Professor Avi Loeb, theoretical physicist and cosmologist from Harvard University, suggested the object could be an alien spacecraft. However, not everyone is convinced. Chris Lintott, an astronomer at the University of Oxford, told Live Science any suggestion that it's artificial is nonsense and nonsense on stilts. He added that these claims are an insult to the exciting work going on to understand this object. But Harvard's legit, and Avi Loeb is a legit astronomer.
Right. I mean, let's not rule anything out.
Yeah.
As it gets closer.
There's something about it, about the way it's traveling, that it's bizarre. But it doesn't have a trail like a comet does.
Right.
We can scroll up a little so I can see that. The images of the comet were actually snapped by the Vera C. Rubin before it was officially discovered. However, since it was identified on July 1st, just a little bit ago, scientists have scoured back through data to find out more about the mysterious object. New study published on RXIV, whatever that is. More than 200 researchers have confirmed the likely size of the comet's main body, known as its nucleus. Their analysis suggests the nucleus has a radius of around 3.5 miles. That translates to a diameter or width of about 7 miles. To put that in perspective, bigger than Mount Everest, twice the size of Mount Kilimanjaro. Fuck.
That Honeymoon was way smaller.
Wow. Yeah, so the, how do you say it?
Oumuamua, I think.
Oumuamua, discovered in 2017. He came on and talked to us about that. Was believed to be around 0.2 miles wide. And a comet Borisov, discovered in 2019, was roughly 0.61 kilometer wide. So this thing is fucking huge. Yeah. So, previously speaking to Mail Online, Professor Lowe pointed out that its impressive speed of 130,000 miles per hour as an indication that it might be controlled by aliens. He said it's difficult to imagine a natural process that would favor a plunge towards the inner solar system at 60 kilometers per second, he said. An alternative is that the object targets the inner solar system by some technological design. Oh boy.
So obviously that is with regards to this entire situation, okay, this thing hurling towards Earth. Apparently there's only a 4% chance that it will hit Earth, so, you know, we might be good. Obviously, Jeremy Corbell came out about 6 months ago, and he said, quote, "I have zero doubt that a lie is coming. The lie is going to be that a craft is slowly making its way towards Earth. The 100% is the lie you are going to be told." Obviously, this started out as an interstellar object. It then turned into a mothership of some description, turning into an attack position. And it's supposed, the idea is that it's supposed to, like, cover up from something else. Now, obviously, there is significant pressure on President Donald Trump and, you know, other people in very high positions of power with regards to the Epstein files. This is mere speculation on my part, of course, but, you know, why else does does this kind of thing come around? Now, this is the clip that came out from Jeremy Corbell 6 months ago, long before we knew about this interstellar object.
Your government now wants you to know one truth, and that truth is that UFOs are real. They've already done told you. Sometimes when you want somebody to know a truth, it's so you can set them up to believe a lie. And that's coming. I have zero doubt that lie is coming. What is the lie? Specifically, you want me to say it right now, for real? Real? On camera? To be put in the show?
Yes.
Okay. Problem with that. If we tell the lie before it's told, they can adapt. That wouldn't be wise. I'll tell you privately, but I would really think about if you want to put this in your show. For real. That's a real thing I'm telling you. So will you think about it before putting it in your show?
Absolutely.
Okay. So UFOs are real, and they've been here a long time, and that's the truth. But the lie is coming. All indications, like all of them, is that that lie is going to be that there is a craft slowly making its way to us here on Earth. And that is the lie they're going to want you to believe. It's nuanced, how they explain that, the nature of that threat. But that 100% is the lie you are going to be told. You even got a date. People have been whispering a date for a long time now. I know where that lie comes from. I know specifically what document from the 70s initiated the idea of that lie. A classified document. That is the lie you will be told. You're going to be told that there is a craft on its way to Earth. That's the lie. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I sent you 2 texts today with a year. Not from me. Nope. I'm not going to propagate that lie. I'm not going to be part of it. Not going to say it to the camera. Everybody knows. Just start paying attention. And they'll change the date, especially if they see this. Things will change. Because maybe I'm trustworthy. Maybe I'm worthy of your trust. Maybe I've told you the truth the whole way through it. Now you can verify it. If that's the case, then I'm fucking dangerous. You've been told the truth about UFOs for a long time now. It's been pretty orchestrated, it's been pretty clear, and it's using people that are telling the truth and want to tell the truth. Ultimately, they want you to know something. They want you to know UFOs are real. Thank God we're finally there. We're all there now. They want you to know the truth. But why they want you to know that truth now? Hope I'm wrong, but it's terrifying. Think about it. Maybe it's good to get ahead of it. Call it out now before they do it. I'll be called crazy. That's okay.
Obviously, it's a really dramatic thing because they're doing this like UFO Revolution Season 2 trailer like hype thing, right? But obviously, he said there, you know, we've got this slow craft moving towards Earth. That's going to be the great lie. He said it was going to come in 2027, but the date could change with him dropping this. You know, bring it forwards by a year and a half, 2 years. Like, you know, it's a very hypothetical, highly hypothetical. And it's very speculative on my part, and a lot of people over on Twitter are kind of talking about it, and there's murmurs over on Twitter and Reddit and stuff about it. But you know, it's interesting that he should say this, and then 6 months later, it's all over the news. Everyone's talking about Harvey Loeb's jumping on it. You know, Joe Rogan's talking about it, like we saw earlier on in an earlier clip. You know, everyone's talking about this interstellar object that is slowly making its way towards Earth, and Harvey Loeb even saying that it's a mothership of some kind, or a mothership is piggybacking off the back of this comet. You know, crazy stuff. Obviously, the jury's still out on it. The Epstein stuff is my kind of take on it. You know, there's some kind of distraction. Let's not forget, back in January of 2024, there was the Epstein documents released, which had the client list, or like, you know, a list of names of people who were had allegedly visited Epstein's island. And suddenly the Miami Mall incident hits. Coincidence? Possibly. Maybe not. Who knows? But then we've got the Director of National Intelligence dropping some very mysterious and cryptic lines within a recent interview. Ross Coulthart may have just dropped yet another banger of a reality check podcast. This time, he sat down to speak to Dr. Beatrice. I'm gonna try my best with this. Via Roel. I believe that's how it's pronounced. But I apologise that if it's not. And this episode was highly intriguing because obviously, you know, Ross Coulthart, yes, has had a bit of an iffy few months recently, with a lot of people, you know, about 6 to 12 months ago being like, I swear by everything that Ross Coulthart ever says. If he says it, it has to be true. With now people being a bit more dubious and skeptical towards his claims, which obviously is usually the way that things tend to go with these UFO and UAP journalists over time, with the claims becoming more bold. And also with Ross Coulthart's recent claims not fully being backed up by facts and evidence like it used to be. Back in the day, I say back in the day, like I'm like 80-year-old. Like, Ross Coulthart used to put out videos and, you know, claims, and he'd be like, this is what I'm claiming, here's the evidence to corroborate this claim. And now it's like, just, here's the claim, but I can't share the evidence. And then it's kind of like, we get into murky waters. But anyway, that's by the by. This is an interesting episode because he sits down with Dr. Beatrice, right? And she stated flat out that based on her research, the data increasingly points to surveillance by non-human technology intelligence. And in her words, she quote-unquote doesn't find any other way of looking at this data. Obviously, these are really, really interesting claims that are being made. But a little bit more on Dr. Beatrice before we get into it. So she is an astronomer and an assistant professor at the Nordic Institute for Theatrical Physics in Stockholm, with a PhD in astronomy, and she leads the Vanishing and Appearing Sources During the Century of Observations project, which analyzes historical and modern astronomical data. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. To identify objects that appear or disappear in the sky, potentially indicating unusual phenomena. She also heads the Exoprobe project, which was launched back in August of 2023, which searches for extraterrestrial probes or artifacts near Earth using a global network of telescopes equipped with high-speed cameras. And her work has earned accolades, including the 2021 L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Prize in Sweden, and in 2022 the International Rising Talents Award. And in 2023 she received the Heterodox Academy's Open Inquiry Award for her courage in pursuing controversial research topics. So, sorry, I've got something stuck in my throat and I just now cannot pronounce words. But she's very well accredited, very well awarded in her field, and she does really, really interesting stuff. Now, on August 6th of 2025, during the interview on Reality Check with Ross Coulthart, she basically stated that her data increasingly points to surveillance of non-human technological intelligence, and that she doesn't find another way of looking at the data. Now, this bold claim, of course, has fueled speculation, with some interpreting it as evidence of a vast network of artificial objects in low Earth orbit during the 1950s. However, the data does not fully, the evidence, does not conclusively prove that it's non-human intelligence. Alternatively, explanations such as a covert human technology or natural phenomena remain possible through the pre-Sputnik timing makes humans satellites unlikely. But this is the clip that she, where she kind of stated this, and we'll get into that a little bit more in just a moment.
All of this suggests something technological. Are we talking here, Beatrice, about the possibility of a non-human technology that was surveilling this planet at that peak moment in UFO history?
I don't find any other way of looking at this data. I think, if I take the pieces together, that some of them fall on a line. Our best cases happened during the Washington, D.C. flap by coincidence. There's temporal correlations with the nuclear bomb tests and with UFO sightings. And on top of it, there's a huge deficit in the shadow of the Earth. For me, this looks technological. But I might be wrong. Maybe there's a new physical phenomenon that nobody knows about yet, but to me it looks very high-tech.
For me, I'm not a statistician, but I really sat up straight when I read the statistical likelihood that this is something that is ruled out by the Earth's shadow as being, perhaps a plate glitch or something like that. What have you learned statistically from testing whether these transients appeared in the Earth's shadow?
Well, I've learned that to have this deficit by chance is extremely low probability to happen by chance. I think it's bigger probability that one gets eaten up by a supermassive black hole tomorrow than that this happens by chance. That's how improbable it appears to be.
Obviously, those are some very bold claims, okay? Very, very bold claims. And like I've said, a lot of people have been skeptical and dubious about this, as you can probably imagine. So some skeptics, for example, on platforms like Reddit have questioned the interpretation of the data, noting that reported 100,000 plus transient may not be explicitly supported by the preprint equations or data. And some suggest that the findings could be exaggerated or potentially just misinterpreted, while others argue that the correlation with historical UFO events like the 1952 Washington D.C. flap is just merely coincidental. But, like Beatrice says within the interview, the probability of this being just a coincidence or coincidental, there's more probability statistically of us getting gobbled up by a black hole tomorrow than there is of this just being a mere coincidence, which, is, again, a very bold, a very stern, I guess, statement. Now, she herself has emphasised the need for further systematic searches and has not claimed definitive proof of extraterrestrial activity, maintaining the scientific approach. Which I do like about this entire interview is she puts out these bold claims, but you know, there is the need for scientific research first. She says, this is my claim, but I'm a person of science, so I'm going to back it up with science and stats and statistics. I'm not just going to throw out these claims and say this is absolutely definitively the case, because obviously what's great about science is there's peer review. There is always an opportunity for things to be potentially wrong. There's always the possibility of someone else coming in, looking at it from a different field perhaps, and being like, have you thought about this probability as well? Science is ever evolving, obviously, in that kind of capacity. Now, obviously, you know, the research suggests an unusual transient phenomena in pre-satellite era astronomical data, which obviously is being interpreted as potentially indicative of non-human surveillance. But while her claims are provocative and, you know, supported by some statistical analysis, they do remain inconclusive without further evidence. Now, there is an upcoming peer review paper, which I've researched as well, which is expected to elaborate on these findings. So hopefully we'll find a bit more clarity on the scope and implications of her work. So, you know, that's definitely worth noting. But you can actually find a little bit more on the Vasco project. So it's basically coming up as a not secure website, but this is kind of how it looks, and this is where the peer review will be taking place, and this is where you can kind of keep up to date for yourself. What do you guys think of these claims? Is this potentially indication of non-human intelligence, or is this kind of a misunderstanding in the misreading of the data that's coming in? And a brand new UFO whistleblower who has come out of the woodworks to basically deliver something. But is it really something? An alleged brand new UFO whistleblower from the Pentagon has come forward to speak out and to provide quote-unquote evidence to back up claims that they are making. So within the claims, right, this anonymous whistleblower, who we don't really know the name of, states that, quote, some form of contact with sentience has been made with estimated approach date, which is the 29th of October. Quote, obviously I will lose my job when this gets out. I have worked for the Pentagon for the past 7 years. Now, this alleged US whistleblower has gone into hiding after claiming that official UFGov documents show that they are prepared for contact with aliens this fall. Now, a lot of people are saying that this is to do with the 3i Atlas asteroid that is, you know, allegedly hurling towards Earth, and a lot of people have claimed that it's something alien technology related, and it's been backed by, you know, scientists and stuff like this. And I'm not necessarily buying that. You know, the probability of it hitting Earth has dropped to below 1%. In fact, I think it's actually closer to 0%, like just completely not going to happen at all. But it's still being fear-mongered that the idea is that it will, you know, hit Earth at some point. Now, I don't know. Obviously, we're going to have to wait until September for that. But obviously, this whistleblower is the kind of talking point at the moment. So let's listen to what he's got to say. And then after watching this, I've already kind of found some discrepancies within the alleged, you know, documentation.
Let me back up. I have worked at the Pentagon for the last 7 years in data analysis. And last Friday, as I was leaving work like I normally do, I got an email that I wasn't supposed to get. There is another senior officer here at the Pentagon with the same first and last name, but with a different middle initial. And it got sent to the DOD email to me instead of him. And according to policy, I wasn't even supposed to open it, but I did. And I have to share this information with everybody before it's too late. I'll just put on the screen. All right, so I will leave it up on the screen for a few moments so you guys can read it. Obviously, the part that stands out is indicating that some form of contact with sentience has been made, and that the estimated current approach date of 29 October. Obviously, I will lose my job once this gets out. And Honestly, I will remain in hiding for as long as possible just for my own safety. But I didn't feel right knowing this information and knowing the implications for all of us and not sharing this with everyone. So do with it what you will, and Godspeed.
Now, looking at the documentation, just kind of straight off the bat, there are a few kind of glaring mistakes and issues. Let's read the document that was provided. So it states, U.S. Department of Defense Top Secret SIG No Fawn. Interstellar Object High Interest Assessment Comet C/2025 N1 Atlas. So this is kind of in reference to the 3I Atlas, I believe, the one that is heading towards, allegedly, towards Earth. And it says top secrets, obviously, restricted to ODNI, USSF, NASA, and OPCEN. Harvard astrophysicist R.V. Loeb, and then a redacted statement here. Now, Galileo Project Analysis. Now, R.V. Loeb is obviously the person that has been touting the idea that this could potentially be this interstellar object is more than a comet, because apparently it didn't have a tail. I believe they have found a tail of the comet now, which people now believe it is. But some, R.V. Loeb was touting the idea that this may be alien tech. It says, AT1 displays an unusually high hyperbolic excess velocity around 5 kilometers per second. Retrograde orbit with 5 inches of the eclipse. Trajectory passes Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Estimated arrival at Perignon, 29th of October. We'll get into that in a minute. 2025. Approximately 1.35 AU from Sun. Strategic trajectory may facilitate surveillance probes, fueling close planetary flybys. Contact established with sentient beings aboard the craft. Obviously, that's quite a huge deal. And then, Sensationalism note, we'll get into that in just a moment as well. An observational blind spot during perihelion approach on 29th of October 2025 could enable concealment maneuvers to evade detection. Now, obviously, there are some glaring mistakes in this government's Department of Defense official document. Bear in mind, this is supposed to be an official document, but just straight off the bat, if you take a little look at the header, right, this should be, like, even if, right, this is written quickly, you could probably, arguably say, yeah, there's been some typos, but this should be a constant. Disagreement of defes, right? So we've got a D, an R, a B, an R, ST meant. So this is supposed to be department. That doesn't say department. Of, this is supposed to be defense, but it's a DRSA, all right? And then this is supposed to be United States of America. It's absolutely not the United States of America, okay? And then obviously scrolling down through the document, you can see here we've got October, right? Not October. We've got, this is supposed to be a sensitivity note. This is not sensitivity at all. And this is also supposed to be concealment. This is not concealment whatsoever. So my theory on this, and a lot of people's theories kind of looking through the thread, is that this is just mocked up through AI. Because if you created, ask AI to create a document like this, it will create a document as close to it as possible, but there are these glaring mistakes. Like this, for example, Department of Defense just completely getting that absolutely wrong. Getting these spelling mistakes wrong. It will type this out as well as it possibly can, but there will be these glaring mistakes because although AI is freakishly accurate now, it's not that accurate. There has also been a community note that has been left on this thread from the page Concerned Citizen, who isn't the whistleblower, by the way. They've just kind of shared this. And it says, classified documents have standard formats and headers as well as standardized cover pages. This document does not follow those standards, most likely fake, as originator has never seen a classified document before. And then if you tap on the link here, it basically is a training course for showing you how a structured secret document should be structured, essentially, which is very interesting. But so yeah, obviously this is a blow up of that that header, which is supposed to be the Department of Defense. But someone has also highlighted all of the glaring mistakes. So Galileo spelt wrong, October spelt wrong, facilitate spelt wrong. I'm not sure what that's even supposed to say. Flybys incorrectly spelt. Sensitivity wrong. Concealment wrong. You can see that this is, not the case whatsoever. And then, just to put the final nail in the coffin, someone asked Grok, which is, of course, is Twitter's or X's AI program, who will, if you ask it a question, if you tag it in and ask it a question about the specific thing, it will give you a rundown. And someone said, Grok, does this individual work at the Pentagon? Grok stated, no verifiable evidence confirms this anonymous individual's employment at the Pentagon. The Comet C-25N1 Atlas is real, but alien contact claims lack credible sources and official acknowledgement, likely a hoax. And that's where I also stand with this. I believe this is a hoax, but I have seen this all over my Twitter page, to be perfectly honest. I've seen this going quite viral. And the fact that some people are actually buying into this is somewhat concerning, because they are just seeing this and being like, wow, this confirms what Harvey Loeb's saying, this confirms my theories on this. Just take a moment to kind of look at it in a bit closer detail, because the issues, without even properly looking into it, were glaring. David Grush, a particularly prominent UFO whistleblower who arguably sparked it all with congressional hearings and, mainstream TV interviews, has just had his lawsuit that he filed against the Loudoun County office dismissed from court, which could be pretty huge for a multitude of things, including what whistleblowers do moving forward and how safe their secret information actually is. So, let me give you a bit of a rundown about what happened, because there's a lot of context to this which provides a bit of an understanding as to why the lawsuit was submitted in the first place and what's led to the dismissal of this lawsuit, full stop. So, back in 2023, in July, David Grush, who is a retired US Air Force officer and former intelligence official, gained public attention when he testified before Congress, alleging that the US government had secretly been involved in quote-unquote crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs related to UAPs. Now, Grush also claimed to have had knowledge of non-human spacecraft and deceased pilots based on information from credible sources within the intelligence and military communities. And his testimony sparked a significant public and media interest, but also drew scrutiny and skepticism, particularly regarding his credibility. Now, that's obviously where we're going to be diving into, because it was that led to some things to happen and then also led to the subsequent lawsuit. Now, following his congressional testimony on August 9th of 2023, The Intercept, through journalist Ken Klippenstein, published an article revealing details about Grush's mental health history. The article cited police incident reports obtained by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, requested from the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. These reports detailed two incidents, one in 2014 and another in 2018, where Grush was involved in situations related to his struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and alcohol use. The 2018 incident involved Grush's wife reporting him for being intoxicated and suicidal, leading to his involuntary detention for psychiatric evaluation under the emergency custody order and a temporary detention order. Now, the article noted that despite these incidents, Grush retained his security clearance, which raised questions about the government's handling of his case compared to other employees. Now, Grush and his supporters, including investigative journalist Ross Coulthart and former CIA officer Tracy Walder, alleged that the release of these records was part of a deliberate smear campaign by elements within the intelligence community and Department of Defense to discredit him after his whistleblower testimony. And they argued that the records, which included sensitive medical information, were improperly released and violated the Virginia privacy laws. And this led to Grush actually filing a $2.5 million lawsuit against the Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman and an unidentified Sheriff's Office employee on July 16th of 2024 in Loudoun Circuit Court. That was the reason for the lawsuit. That was the amount of the lawsuit, and that's why it first went through. So just for a little bit of context for everyone, because then we're all on the same page and you understand what's going on. Now, the reasons for filing the lawsuit. Obviously, there was the alleged violation of the Virginia privacy laws. There was the claim of intentional harm and smear campaign. There was personal and professional harm, so basically defamation. Discovery of a strategic goal. Broader implications for whistleblower protection. Now, these were the kind of the guises as to why this lawsuit was initially submitted. Because, you know, basically, the lawsuit was framed as a defense of whistleblower rights and privacy protection for veterans, and Grush and his supporters argued that using his mental health history to discredit him set a dangerous precedent for other whistleblowers, particularly those with PTSD and similar conditions, and the case raised questions about the balance between government transparency under FOIA and protection of sensitive personal information, particularly those in the public eye, like David Grush really was back in 2023 and 2024, and arguably still now. Not as much for sure, but, you know, he was back then. Now, ultimately, the lawsuit was completely dismissed, and we know this because it has been, you know, made public information. So David Grush's $2.3 million lawsuit against Loudoun County Sheriff Michael Chapman and member of his staff that has been permanently dismissed. Grush filed the suit after Sheriff released the two journalists Ken Klippenstein a police incident report containing details of an episode that led to Grush's involuntary commitment to a mental health facility. Grush's name was redacted on the report, but Grush was identifiable based on other information within the document. Yesterday, the court heard Sheriff Chapman's demurrer, which argued that Grush's remaining claims for the gross and willful negligence fell to as a matter of law, even assuming of the facts that alleged by Grush in the complaint were true. The judge has now held that the release of the redacted incident report was authorized under Virginia's FOIA law, and that the sheriff showed some level of care in the release, because any showing of care defeats gross negligence, and willful negligence requires conscious disregard. Grush's two remaining claims were dismissed. As Grush's complaint was dismissed with the prejudice, it cannot be refiled. And then this was the order. This matter having come to the court on the amended demurrer filed by the defendants, Sheriff Michael Chapman and Mary Ellen Clark, and upon consideration of the demurrer, the opposition of plaintiff defendants' reply and oral argument, it is hereby ordered that the demurrer be, and the same hereby is sustained without leave amend, and it is further ordered that the plaintiff's complaint and this case be and hereby are dismissed with prejudice. Now, you're probably wondering why it got dismissed, because obviously that doesn't state why it got dismissed. It just says, well, it kind of does, but, you know, not in a lot of depth. So the lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice by the US judge on August 7th, meaning that Grush cannot refile the same claims. While the exact reasoning for the dismissal was not detailed in available sources, several factors likely contributed to the court's decision. So this, of course, isn't the exact reasons, I must, stress for the sake of the video, but we can get an understanding. So the first one was legal grounds for the FOI compliance. So according to the judge, the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office maintained that it acted lawfully in responding to Klippenstein's FOIA request. There was a weakness in the complaint. So some legal observers on platforms like Reddit noted that the complaint was poorly constructed and unlikely to survive the motion to dismiss. There was qualified immunity, so the Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Chapman likely invoked qualified immunity, a legal doctrine that protects public officials from lawsuits when acting in their official capacity. There was a lack of evidence or improper motive, so while Grush alleged that a smear campaign orchestrated by federal agencies, the lawsuit may not have provided concrete evidence linking the Sheriff's Office to such a conspiracy. There is the procedural or jurisdictional issues, so the dismissal could also stem from a procedural flaw, such as filing for the wrong court, so for example a federal versus state court, or failing to meet statutory requirements for a civil suit against a government entity, which of course the police department would be. And public interest and FOIA policy. So courts often balance privacy rights with the public interest in government transparency. The Sheriff's Office argued that the records were part of a routine FOIA response, and the court may have prioritised the public's rights to access law enforcement records over Grush's privacy claims. So, that's where we stand with that. Now, what happens moving forwards? This could potentially be, and this is what's being touted across the internet, as a potential blow to the whistleblower community, because people will be wondering, well, if people can just so easily access my medical records and, you know, just submit an FOIA request to the police department and the courts won't protect me, then I don't necessarily want that private information out for the public scrutiny. So it might deter a lot of whistleblowers, which, you know, people are now saying is the idea of the smear campaign, I have to put it in quotations now, because yeah, it's a messy one, isn't it? This is just government through and through, and this is one of those ones. But what do you think? Should the dismissal have stood, or do you think that it was wrong? So that's what we've got so far for the UFO community and the summary of the past couple of weeks. What do you guys make of all of this information? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. While you're down there, jump to get the hell out of that like button and subscribe. And until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.